Hey, what's up guys? Jake with Legacy 4x4 here again, and today we're doing a customer project, actually for a friend of mine, and we're going to be building a fence post puller that uses a high lift type jack or a farm jack to rip cut down fence posts out of the ground. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. This should be a fun, quick little video. All right, so I'm currently redoing some of the fencing at my house, and so I need a fence post puller to rip some of these posts out of the ground that are kind of dug in there. And I've got a contractor friend of mine that also needs one for what he does himself where he lives. So he does a lot of fence repair work, and a lot of the time that involves cutting out old fencing, removing the posts, and setting in some new ones. As many of you know, it can sometimes be a challenge to remove a fence post out of the ground. And so we started looking around online and we found some of this design stuff that works with a high lift jack. So basically you build a frame out of 2x2 and then you bolt a high lift jack into that frame, and then you're able to rip the fence post out of the ground by using the mechanical advantage of the high lift jack. So that's what we're going to be building today. It should be a fun little project. We're just using some 2x2 and some 1/8 inch to make some gussets with. It should be pretty quick and simple, I think. To do this project, I am using a full stick, 21 feet of 2x2 by 1/8 square tubing. And so we're going to start this project by cutting that tubing to length. I've got a drawing that I drew up on CAD of what this is supposed to look like with all the measurements. So we're going to throw this on the slugger, cut all these tubes down to length, and then start laying some things out. So let's go ahead and get started. All right, so I didn't really do any talking through how I was building the frame. You can see it next to me. It's all pretty straightforward. Basically just built a rectangle, did a couple legs off of it, and then a couple angular pieces here. This is the basic structure for this fence post puller. And the way it works now is this high lift jack. I'm gonna build some mounts for this. The high lift jack is gonna tie into one point at the top near the handle and one point down here on this crossbar. And then there's an attachment for these high lifts that you can buy that allows it to clamp onto something like a fence post that's already in the ground. And then you can just jack the high lift up and then it'll rip the fence post out of the ground. So this frame is basically just a mobile way to bring the high lift around and get it off the ground enough so that you can jack something like a fence post out of the ground. So next up, I'm going to make the mounts for the high lift so that you can probably better see the way that those fit here inside of the frame we've got. And then I've got to install the wheels, and I'm making a little faceplate for the guy so that he's got his name on it, so to make sure nobody ever steals it or anything like that, and just as a little cool piece of, you know, hey, this is mine. All right, so the frame, like I said, is made entirely out of 2x2 by 1/8 inch square tubing, and I ground down anything that was visible that was flushed, and I capped off all of the ends to give it a nice clean finished appearance, and to make sure that it was all watertight so that the thing won't rust from the inside out. I'm pretty happy with how it looks so far. So next up, we're going to be knocking out these mounts for the high lift jack. I'm going to be using some scrap 1/4 inch steel that I have to make the mounts. It'll just be two little arms that come off of the crossbars that a bolt hole can go through so that you can tie this high lift into the frame, and then I'll do a little bit of gusseting along those to give them the strength that they need. But anyways, let's keep moving. now I am making the mounts for the wheels. To do this, I was originally going to run just a 5/8 inch shaft all the way through both sides of the frame, drill some holes in the end of it, and then use that to mount the wheels, kind of the way a traditional 5/8 shaft would work. I did not want to have to drill through that 5/8 inch shaft to drill a hole for that cotter pin or for whatever else was going to adhere these wheels onto this frame here. For the wheels, I'm just using a standard universal wheel. You can get these at Tractor Supply for about 20 bucks per. It fits for a 5/8 inch shaft, and there's a bearing inside of it that it spins on. While I was at Tractor Supply buying those wheels, I was looking around for some other options, and I found these 5/8 inch link pins. These are for tractors and things like that to connect their different links to for like 3-point hitches and stuff. And I figured, hey, why not? These are big enough, I can use one of these. And so I bought 2 of these for a couple of bucks. I bought a washer that fits on the very bottom of it, a nice fat washer, and I bought a little piece of the sleeve. I've since cut the sleeve in half, and the way this is basically going to work is I'm going to put the washer along the bottom of the pin, put the sleeve over the top of it, like so, washer down here on the bottom, and then as you can see here, I'm going to just fully weld that onto the frame. The point of this washer on the bottom of it is to give me more surface area to weld everything else to, because now I've increased it from about 5/8 of an inch out to about 1 inch total diameter. So I've got more surface area to weld to give it a little bit more strength, and then I can weld all of this around to it, making this a whole solid piece back there mounted into the frame, which should be pretty easy. I've got one side done, as you can see right here. I just finished it up. I still need to clean it up a little bit. I'm going to go ahead and put this other side together in front of you guys here, and then I'll show you what the wheels look like and how it rolls around on the ground. All right, so as you guys can see down here, I've got the mounts done. For those, I just used a little piece of scrap 1/4 inch that I had. I cut a couple of 1 inch by 1.5 inch coupons out of that 1/4 inch steel, drilled a hole through both sides of it, and then welded them fully into the 2x2 frame that we have. That should be plenty strong enough for what this has to do. I don't see any reality where you're going to be able to rip the jack through those pinpoints. If you ever did, I guess you'd have to re-weld them. You can't really do any like additional gussets or supports to it because it's a relatively small package, and you can't obviously block the high lift from coming in and out of the jack or out of the frame as you're using it, or if you need to use the high lift somewhere else. So it's kind of the only thing you can do, unless you try to like do a wrap gusset around the frame, but I feel like that's probably unnecessary. So I'm going to leave it like that. If the guy ever has issues with it in the future, my policy is if you break it during normal operations due to something with the design of it, I will repair it for free. So if he ever does have a problem with it, I'll just fix it for him sometime in the future, but I think it's going to work just fine, just like this. I'm using some 3/8 inch cotter pins with a lock hoop around it right now as the pins to hold the jack into place. The only thing I don't like is there is space here, so it kind of shifts a little bit. I did that on purpose so that if you had a different style of farm jack, maybe one that was a little wider or something, it'll still fit in there. At least almost all models of the farm jack should fit in there. So I didn't want to make it super tight against the high lift just in case he's going to use a different brand of jack than what I've got. I think to fill that gap, I'll just throw in some spacers in there, a bunch of washers, kind of stuff like that in there, just kind of fill in that gap and keep it nice and clean. But otherwise, that pretty much finishes this. I'm going to take it outside and paint it, and then when it's all done, I'll show you guys the finished product. All right, so we got the fence post puller here, all finished up. It took a few days for the paint to dry. I tried using a different type of paint, a farm and tractor implement type paint, because I was going for as most durable of a coat of coverage as I could to protect this thing from the inevitable abuse that it's going to receive in its day-to-day operations. Now, I don't know if it was just me or if it was the paint, but this paint job did not turn out as good as I would have liked. You guys will see it when I bring you in closer here in a second to show you through this whole tool. Basically, if you didn't understand earlier, the way I was trying to explain it, this is what this is. It's a frame with some wheels, and then on the bottom of the high lift jack, you route a chain, and you can either drill into whatever it is you're trying to lift out of the ground, or you can buy specific fence post clamp pullers that will mount straight to that and will rip the fence post out of the ground. So you cut the fence post down, you tie it onto that, and you go back here, and then you use the farm jack to jack whatever it is out of the ground that you need to pull. Pretty simple little machine, a pretty simple tool, but a fun project nonetheless. Let me show you guys a close-up of the rest of this so you can get a better understanding of how I built everything. So up top here, you can see that we just used a locking clevis type pin with a few washers in there to help control the movement of the high lift. You can see our little 1x1 handle, and then the frame is all made out of 2x2, going all the way down. You can't really see it because the paint's really thick, but there's some of the welds. All of these joints are fully welded the whole way around, and then I smoothed out the edges for like these parts here and there to give it a nice clean finished look, or at least that's what I was going for, and then the paint kind of messed that up a little bit, as you can see. And then we've got our wheels there, held on by those 5/8 inch link straps, using a different type of locking clevis on the outside of those to pin them into place. And then that's my high lift there, but the guy that this is going to has his own, so I'm going to pull that off when I give this to him. Kind of the same story on the back here, as you can see, just a simple square metal frame with pins for the high lift to pin into. This is some of the stuff I was talking about with the paint. You can see that it really just didn't adhere properly. I don't really know why. I primed it the same way I normally do. I just switched out to a different type of paint for the finishing coats, but oh well. It's a tool, and there's really no way to fix this that I know of without completely stripping it down and repainting it. So there it is. So that finishes up this project, guys. Thank you for watching. I hope you all enjoyed this. It's just another one of those little shop projects that we do around here, just to drum up a little bit of extra cash to fund some of the other bigger things that we do, as well as to get experience for us building a variety of different things. Like every time you do this, you learn a little bit new every single time. Like this time I learned about that paint, and that I'm probably not going to use it again in the future, but you learn things, and that's what the whole point of all this is. Hope you guys like this. Thanks for watching, and next week we are going to be back at the CNC machine. I just finished lasering off the first of the risers for it, so we're going to start making those next week, and we're going to do all the mechanical upgrades for the machine, and then after that we'll finish off with the software video. Thanks for watching, guys. Hope you all like it. Take care.